Welcome to Life Stories, where we bring you gripping tales of love, betrayal, and the unexpected twists of fate. Today's story is one of deception, cruelty, and a woman's silent revenge. Ethan thought he could control his wife, Olivia, turning her into a source of income without remorse. But he never imagined that she would fight back, not with screams or resistance, but with a deadly secret of her own. As the bodies piled up, Ethan realized too late that he had underestimated her. What happens when the predator becomes the prey? Stay tuned to uncover the shocking ending. Don't forget to subscribe to Life Stories to hear more unforgettable tales. When I told Olivia to get ready, her eyes lit up with excitement. She moved quickly, smoothing her dress, fixing her hair, and touching up her makeup with the kind of joy that only a woman deeply in love could display. Seeing her like that, so innocent and full of hope, made something in my chest tighten, but not with guilt. No. I felt nothing but amusement at how easily she trusted me. She had no idea what was coming. I had promised her a special gift. Something just for her. That's what I told her before I walked out the door. She believed me, as she always did, smiling sweetly as she whispered, "I can't wait." If only she knew. Outside, the night air was crisp, the streets quiet, except for the occasional hum of a passing car. A man was already waiting for me by the curb, his posture relaxed, a cigarette hanging between his fingers. He turned his head slightly as I approached, a smirk playing on his lips. "She's inside," I told him, lowering my voice. "I'll turn off the lights, so she won't know if it's me or you. Just be quick before she makes too much noise." He let out a low chuckle, the kind that sent a shiver down even my spine. "Don't worry," he said smoothly. "I know exactly how to handle this." I nodded, stepping aside as he walked past me. The moment he entered, I reached for the switch and plunged the house into darkness. I stood outside, staring at the dim glow of the street lamp, listening. A part of me was curious, wondering how long it would take before Olivia realized the man in the dark was not her husband. Would she scream immediately? Would she try to fight back? And then, right on cue, came the muffled sound of her struggle. A choked cry, the sharp gasp of fear. My fingers curled into fists, but not out of anger or concern. No, I was simply waiting. This was the first time I had sold my wife, and to my own surprise, I felt no remorse. If anything, I felt relieved. This was what I had married her for. Olivia was never meant to be my partner in life, she was my business. A means to an end. Back home, in Chicago, I had a real wife, a real family. But here, in this foreign land, I had nothing. No job, no security, no future. I had spent all my savings just to get here, only to realize that the American dream was nothing but an illusion for people like me. I had no legal documents, no way to work a normal job. What other choice did I have? Minutes passed. The cries grew quieter, swallowed by the walls. I leaned against the cold brick of the building, waiting for the night to pass, waiting for my profits to come rolling in. When the door finally creaked open, the man stepped out, straightening his collar. His hair was a mess, his shirt buttons undone, but his grin was satisfied. He pulled a wad of cash from his pocket and slapped it into my hand. "She's amazing," he said, exhaling smoke from his cigarette. "If I could, I'd come here every night. But you're charging too much." I smirked, tucking the money into my pocket. "If you have other clients, send them over tomorrow." He laughed loudly, nodding. "I have plenty of friends. I'll send someone then." With that, he walked away, disappearing into the night, leaving behind only the scent of cheap cologne and the weight of dirty money in my hands. Once he was gone, I took a moment to compose myself. I ruffled my own hair, unbuttoned my shirt, and wrapped a bandage around my head to make it look as if I had been attacked. When I stepped back inside, I let my steps stumble, as if I had barely made it home. And then I saw her. Olivia lay motionless on the bed, her pale skin illuminated by the dim glow of the street lamp outside. Blood stained the sheets around her. Her feet were tied with rope, her dress torn. Her breaths came in ragged gasps, her eyes unfocused. For the first time that night, I hesitated. I moved quickly, untying her feet, gently calling her name. Olivia, are you okay? What happened? Her glassy eyes found mine, and at that moment, she broke. She sobbed, her body trembling as she threw herself into my arms. I held her, stroking her hair, whispering soft reassurances, playing the part of the devastated husband. I was attacked outside. I lied, my voice thick with false emotion. I was unconscious. I just woke up and rushed home. Olivia, what happened to you? She clung to me, her fingers digging into my shirt as she wept. A stranger, he was in the dark. Her voice broke into ragged sobs. I clenched my jaw, keeping my expression perfectly pained. Oh, God. Olivia. I'm so sorry. I should have been here. She shook her head, still crying, still believing every word. After a long while, when her sobs turned into exhausted sniffles, she whispered, "We have to go to the police." I stiffened. "No," I said firmly, shaking my head. "We don't know who did this. If they find out we went to the police, they might come back. We can't fight against powerful people. Olivia. We're weak. We're poor." I saw it then, the fear in her eyes. The way she swallowed her words. The way she clutched my shirt just a little tighter. And I knew I had won. I had silenced her. I kissed her forehead, whispering promises of safety, all while tucking away the money I had earned from her pain. And as I sat beside her, holding her shaking form, I found myself eagerly waiting for tomorrow night, wondering just how much more I could make off of my beautiful, broken wife. The following nights were just as easy as the first. Olivia remained fragile, fearful, and obedient. Each time I left the house, she begged me not to go, her eyes full of unspoken terror. And each time, I gave her the same excuse: I had to work overtime. I had to bring in money. I had to make sure we survived. It wasn't difficult to manipulate her. Poverty had drained her spirit, and fear had stolen her will to fight. Every night, a new man came. Every night, I sat outside, waiting, counting the minutes until it was over. And every morning, I returned, feigning exhaustion, feigning regret. Olivia never suspected a thing. She clung to me as though I were her only lifeline, the only thing keeping her from drowning in this cruel, foreign world. Then, something strange happened. The man who had visited Olivia the first night, the one who had paid me well and promised to send more clients, was found dead. It was unexpected, but I brushed it off. People die all the time. Maybe it was a heart attack. Maybe he had been drinking too much. But then, another man, one who had visited Olivia just a few nights later, died in the same way. Suddenly, the whispers began. A few of my usual clients stopped coming. There were no new referrals. A week passed, and I made nothing. I was furious. I needed answers. One evening, I found myself standing outside the house of the man who had first introduced me to this business. He was the one with all the connections. The one who had promised me a steady stream of wealthy men willing to pay for a woman like Olivia. When I knocked on his door, his brother answered, his face heavy with grief. He passed away last night, he told me. He was fine, completely healthy, and then he just collapsed. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. Collapsed. I echoed. How? The man shook his head. It was as if he couldn't breathe. By the time we got to him, he was gone. I stood there for a long moment, the weight of his words sinking in. 3 men. 3 deaths. All of them had spent a night with Olivia. Was it a coincidence? Or was something else going on? That night, I found another client for Olivia. I had to know what was happening. So I decided to stay behind and watch. I waited until the man entered the house. I moved quietly, pressing my back against the fragile wooden walls, peeking through a small crack in the window. Inside, I saw Olivia, sitting on the bed, her body tense, her hands clenched in her lap. The man approached her, unbuttoning his shirt. Olivia didn't move. Then, as he leaned in, she did something that made my breath hitch. She reached under the pillow and pulled out a syringe. My stomach dropped. Before the man could react, she jabbed the needle into his leg. He barely flinched, assuming it was nothing more than a sharp pinch. He continued with his intentions, unaware that his fate had already been sealed. I stepped back from the window, my mind racing. Olivia knew. She knew what I had been doing. She knew I had betrayed her. And she had been playing a game of her own. For the first time in a long time, fear crept into my chest. Olivia wasn't the helpless, broken woman I thought she was. She was something else entirely. And now, I had to figure out what to do next. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Olivia's hand slipping under the pillow, her fingers wrapping around that syringe, her quiet precision as she injected the man with something unseen and deadly. She had been doing this for weeks, maybe longer. She had been killing the men I sold her to. The realization unsettled me in a way I hadn't expected. I wasn't a good man, I knew that. I had betrayed my wife, manipulated her, sold her body for profit without a single flicker of remorse. And yet, somehow, Olivia had outplayed me. She had taken control of her fate. Not by fighting, not by running, but by something far worse. She was exacting her own silent revenge. The next morning, I went about my routine as usual. I walked back into the house with the same tired expression, pretending I had just returned from a long night of hard labor. Olivia was curled up on the bed, her eyes red and swollen from another night of forced submission. She looked up at me, vulnerable, afraid at least. That's what I had always believed. But now, I wasn't so sure. I sat beside her, my voice soft. "Are you okay?" She hesitated before nodding, then whispered, "I think someone is watching us." I stiffened. "What do you mean?" She pulled the blanket tighter around her body, her voice barely above a whisper. "Every time you leave, something bad happens. It's like someone knows when I'm alone. I don't know who they are. I don't know why they're doing this to me." Her act was flawless. I had no idea whether she was lying or not. I reached out, cupping her face in my hands, staring deep into her eyes, searching for any trace of deception. "You need to be more careful," I said finally. "Lock the doors. Keep the lights off. Stay quiet." She nodded, her gaze flickering downward, as if she was nothing more than a frightened woman looking to her husband for protection. But I knew better now. The next night, I found another client. It didn't take long, despite the rumors. There were still men willing to pay for a woman like Olivia. I arranged everything as usual. But this time, I didn't leave. I hid outside, watching. I needed to see it happen again. The man entered. Olivia sat on the bed, her hands folded in her lap. She didn't resist when he reached for her. She didn't struggle. But then, slowly, subtly, her hand moved beneath the pillow. And there it was. The syringe. I had seen enough. I left before the man could notice me, my heart hammering in my chest. I needed to think. I needed to decide what to do. If Olivia had been poisoning these men all along, how much longer before someone connected the deaths back to her? To me. I had to end this. But how? That question haunted me all the way home. And by the time I stepped inside, I had made my decision. Olivia had to go. She was dangerous. She had turned my business into a death sentence. And if I didn't act now, It was only a matter of time before she found a way to kill me too. I thought I had control. I thought Olivia was weak. A pawn in my game. A woman too broken to fight back. But I was wrong. She had known all along. She had played her own game. One far deadlier than mine. The next morning, I woke to a searing pain in my chest. My vision blurred. My limbs felt heavy. And then I saw her, Olivia, standing over me, a syringe in her delicate hands. Her voice was calm, almost tender. You sold me, Ethan. You used me. Now, it's your turn to pay. Darkness swallowed me whole. Perhaps this was justice. Perhaps this was my punishment. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Life Stories for more gripping tales of love, betrayal, and redemption. See you in the next video.